Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all doing really well today. So I am back with another thrift flip. I went thrifting for the first time since March, just last week, and I found some really cool home decor items that I thought would be really fun to remake for the fall season. So I have 3 different pieces that I'm going to share with you today that I remade from some thrifted items. So let me go ahead and jump in and show you the first project. So first up today, I am making these little faux pottery vases. I also have one on the shelf back here behind me, and I think this is so cool. I saw this on TikTok and thought I would do my own interpretation of it. So let me show you how I made this. So to make these vases, I'm starting with these 2 vases I found at Goodwill for $1.49 each. They're this colored clear glass, and I'm going to put together a paint mixture. So I'm using a peach and a black paint and mixing these together. This just gives me kind of like a clay color. And then to this, I'm going to add some baking soda. This is what gives it that clay-like texture when you paint the vases. So I'm going to add baking soda and mix this together until I get this paste-like consistency. So I'm using a pretty large paintbrush here, and I'm just going to go ahead and paint my vases. You'll see that this has really good coverage on the first coat. I did go ahead and do a second coat just to make sure that none of that color showed through, but it does have a really nice opaque finish. These look really cool as is just once this paint dries, but to give it a little bit more of an antique texture, I'm going to do a little bit of a weird step. So I've mixed together some potting soil and water here, and I'm going to apply this to the dried paint. So you'll see that the water kind of runs down and it's got this really dark color from the potting soil. I know that might seem kind of gross, but it really is a really cool effect. So I'm just going to paint this on and allow it to dry. And then once it's dry, I'm going to come in with a dry paintbrush and just pretend I'm an archaeologist and clean up the surface and get rid of any of the dirt that's on the surface. And the final result really gives this a lot of dimension, and I think makes it look a lot more authentic and a little bit more antique. So I really like how this turned out. So I added a little bit of dried eucalyptus to my vases, which I think is a really pretty and low maintenance way to add some greenery to a space. And I love how these look. I have 2 of them now, and I'm just really excited to use them in my space. Then next up, I really wanted to find a storage solution for my record collection. I recently got a new bookshelf that doesn't have the same storage space that I had before. So I found a magazine rack at Goodwill, and I decided just to paint it gold. So here is what it looks like in its final form, but let me show you how this came together. So here is the magazine rack as it started out. This was about $4 at Goodwill, just a little bit under $4, and it was really rusted and just not in very good shape on the surface. So I decided to just hit it with some gold spray paint. So that's what I'm doing here. I applied 2 coats of gold spray paint, and I found this spray paint to be very opaque and to work really, really well. I love how it looks, and I think it makes the magazine rack look like it was originally gold. So I'm really happy with how that turned out, and now I just want to spray paint everything gold. So this can definitely hold most of my favorite records, and I think it's the perfect storage solution for this space. And then last up today, I really wanted to make a sweater knit pillow. So I remade a sweater into a pillow. Here's what the pillow looks like. I think it's super, super cute. So let me show you how I put this one together. To make the pillow, I thrifted a simple cable knit sweater, and this one actually had some makeup stains on the neckline, so I thought it was a good candidate for upcycling since it wasn't in the best condition. So I started by turning it wrong side out and just cutting apart the different pieces so I could have a better idea of the amount of fabric I was working with and see what size pillow I could get out of this sweater. So I cut my sweater into 2 rectangles using the front and back of the sweater for the front and back of the pillow, and just getting as much of this nice cable knit pattern as I could, I decided to do this little rectangle shape so it'll be a nice accent pillow. And then I thought it would be really cute to add some tassels to this pillow, so I unraveled some of the sleeve just by picking apart the threads and pulling out the knitting so that I had some extra yarn to use to make into some tassels. Now this will look really curly when you unravel it, so you could steam it or iron it, but I think it looks really cute just as is. So I'm going to be making 4 tassels, 1 for each corner of the pillow, and to start I just have a little bundle of that yarn that I unraveled, and I'm just going to make sure that when I put it together it is the thickness that I want my tassel to be, so I've decided to double this over here. So I'm going to take another piece of yarn and tie this around the center of my group of pieces of yarn, and this will form the top of the tassel where it hangs from on each corner. And then I'm just going to take one more piece of yarn and tie this around the top of the tassel. This gives it that really authentic tassel shape. So I'm going to tie this really tightly in a double knot and just trim off the excess yarn. And finally, I'm just going to trim all of the ends of my tassel to make sure everything looks nice and even. So once all 4 of my tassels were made, I could put my pillow together. So I placed each tassel at each corner of the pillow and then layered the other piece on top. And then I'm going to sew all the way around, leaving a gap in the bottom. Now I am using a really old metal machine that's very heavy duty, so it doesn't have any trouble sewing over this thick sweater knit, but you may just want to be aware that it might be a little bit difficult for your machine to sew over something this thick. So just be really careful and go nice and slow, and make sure that you're not going to break a needle or anything. So once I finished sewing this together, I went ahead and turned it right side out using the gap that we left on the bottom. And you can see those tassels are on all of the corners and it looks really, really cute. I also hit this with some steam from my iron just to make sure that everything was kind of evenly stretched, since it stretches a little bit as you sew those seams. And I am just stuffing this with some polyfill that I recycled from an old pillow that I didn't want anymore. You could do that, or you could just buy some at the craft store, whatever works for you. And I would say always add a little bit more stuffing than you think you need, because pillows do tend to compress over time, so it will get a little bit less fluffy as it sits, so just add a little bit more than you think. Once you're happy with how your pillow looks, you can just sew up the lower gap with a needle and thread. Now you'll notice here that I accidentally cut that off of my footage, so you won't be able to see it, but I used an invisible stitch and you really can't see where it's sewn together at all. So I was really happy with how that looked. And here is how the final pillow looks. I think this is so cute, and it would be a perfect accent for the autumn or for the holiday season with the sweater knit. Alright guys, so those are all of the projects that I made from these thrifted items. I really hope you enjoyed seeing them. I had so much fun putting this together. I know I normally do clothing thrift flips, but let me know if you liked this style of video, and I might do some home decor like every season just to mix it up a little bit. I had a lot of fun with these projects and I hope you enjoyed them as well. But thank you guys so much for spending your time here on my channel and watching today. If you are not already subscribed and you would like to see more thrifting, DIY, and sewing content, you can go ahead and subscribe by pushing the red button down below, and I would really appreciate it. And if you'd like to connect with me outside of YouTube, Instagram is the best way to do that. So I will put my username here and you guys can go check me out over there if you're interested. But thanks again so much for watching, and I will talk to you in my next video. Bye!
We're broken misunderstandings and words unspoken. We fall apart and I won't dare